Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 161 of Pera's Playbook. Today we're joined by Shae Carroll. She plays Division I hockey and runs Division I track at Sacred Heart University. Happy to have you here. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. Now we're starting to get into spring and track season. What's the weather like up in Connecticut? Is it actually spring weather?
It's not bad if I'm being honest. It's just very windy all the time. So even if it's like a solid like 50, 60 degrees, it feels a lot colder because it's just always windy. But it's not bad. Sunday or tomorrow, Saturday for our meet is supposed to be beautiful. So can't really complain.
Have you been practicing outside a lot?
Yeah. My first day on Monday, it was raining really bad, so we practiced inside. But every day since then, like Tuesday and yesterday and today, we'll be outside too. So it's kind of a nice little switch up from hockey, being able to be outside in the fresh air.
Yeah. Do you guys have any snow?
Not recently. I mean, over the winter we got a lot. We had a couple days where like school was canceled one day because like teachers couldn't come in and whatnot. But other than that, it wasn't awful. It was like a good healthy winter.
Yeah. So you don't have any snow left? Like, I mean, does everyone have green grass now?
Yeah, it's like kind of crazy actually. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's nice. Because I'm in the UP of
Mm,
Michigan, and like I don't know. If you
yeah.
know anything about the UP weather, it's kind of a roller coaster. Like we had
Oh,
2 really nice weeks, and people almost had grass in their yards, and then we got dumped with snow, and this weekend we're supposed to get like 8 inches of snow and like a third of an inch of ice or something. Yeah.
yikes.
Everyone else is all excited about spring, and we get stuck up here. Like when I went to college, all my friends that were from downstate, they were talking about their parents sending them pictures of their front yards and they're mowing the grass, and it's like, oh, geez, I can't even see grass
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah. I have some friends who go to school up there, and they're always complaining about the snow. And like you chose that, but
Yeah, that
I
is
understand.
true. Yeah, we all choose to live here or go to school here or whatever it is, and it's worth it, even if there is snow, like that many months out of the year. It's definitely worth it. Um, Beautiful place. Have you ever been up to the UP?
Yeah, it's so nice up there. I have some family that lives up there, and I want to go up north this summer to kind of go visit them and just sightsee a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's dive into hockey a little bit. I know you played for Bell Tire. So why don't we start there? I mean, you had some success with them, and I guess also something that we can kind of talk about is like the fact that there's not a ton of high school girls hockey teams in the state of Michigan. So I guess that kind of limits your options on what you can do. I know up in the UP there's none. So a few girls will occasionally play on like the boys teams. Otherwise they end up playing travel hockey. So why don't we start with there? Like when you started getting older, because I also know that at a younger age, often kids all mix, or you got guys and girls on the same team and you're playing mites or whatever. But then once you get to an older age, obviously people start growing up and harder to play a mix of games, especially a different style of game. So let's start there. When did you start playing Bell Tire?
I started when I was about 9 in second grade. Um, my mom was a figure skater when she was younger. I'm actually named after a figure skater, which is kind of questionable now that I play hockey. I don't know how I feel about it. But my dad played like recreationally, like he'll play in like charity games and stuff like that. But my mom did not want me to figure skate. She didn't want me to play hockey. She just like it's too political. Like I don't want to have to deal with it anymore. Like you're not doing anything. Like you'll learn how to skate, but that's about it. So I knew how to skate since I was really young, when I was like 4 or 5. Like pretty much as soon as I like got the whole walking thing down, they put me on skates. So But my best friend in second grade, she played hockey, and obviously we were still a big hockey family, even if none of us really played. So I was like, "Whoa, like that's so cool! Like you play hockey," and so she's like, "Yeah, like you should come play too." And I was like, "Okay." And then my dad was all for it. She was all for it. I was all for it. Her mom was all for it. My mom was not all for it, but at that point, there was really nothing she could do. So I joined the team that she was on. It was like a house team, and then um, yeah, just up from there.
Up from there. So you won multiple state championships when you were with Bell Tire. So that'd be pretty exciting having that success at a young age.
Yeah, it was definitely awesome. Like the state tournament is something that is basically like the end goal for any team in Michigan. I mean, obviously you're thinking about nationals, but most of the time to get there, you gotta win the state tournament first. And just even just this year being here and seeing like the logo of the state tournament and like knowing that it was like that time of year, like I still felt like the jitters that you would get every single year. It's just nothing can compare to that feeling of being in the state tournament, especially winning. Like, oh my gosh, like the things I would do to just be able to win the state tournament one more time.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. And then I feel like too when you're a young athlete, and you get to do that kind of stuff, like it's so exciting. Whether it's whatever sport you're playing, obviously it's different in high school because usually you have districts and conference titles and regionals and all that stuff. But whatever it is that every kid too wants to hoist up a trophy and get a banner or whatever it is, have that exciting moment, those memories that'll last you a lifetime.
Yeah, yeah, those
So
memories definitely will be with me for a very very long time.
yeah, so let's talk about recruiting. With playing with Bell Tire, I mean, when did you start getting recruited?
Well, the rule is the summer after your sophomore year. I'm pretty sure is when you can start reaching out to coaches and stuff like that. And that changed throughout. That changed when I was in eighth grade, I think it was. So, at that point, there was already some people in Michigan who were already committed. Like, in seventh grade, I was on Little Caesars with Cassie Hall, and she was literally committed to Wisconsin already. Like, she's so good, and so that was like kind of crazy. Like, it's like looking back now and seeing like she was literally in seventh grade. Like, people were like committing like then. Um, but yeah, then they changed the rule and everything. And recruiting is definitely, I think, a lot of athletes and in all sports can attest to this. Like it's awful. It is so frustrating. It is draining. It is unforgiving. It is just it's so bad because like everyone's like, oh, like send emails, like coaches talk to you. It's like the like the little amount of coaches that talk to you, like people blow it up to be so big. I mean, maybe I just wasn't that good, and people just didn't talk to me. But I definitely did not have the great experience of like, where am I gonna go? Like, oh my gosh, like I have so many options. Like, no, that was just not the case. Um, but in my senior year, so January of 2023, I had actually committed to University of Maine. So I was committed there for a while, and I was taking a gap year before I was gonna go there. And the in September of my gap year, so in September of 2023, my coach at Maine was just like, I don't think this is a really great like coach player match. Like I don't want you to have to come here and like and hate playing with me or like have to like sit you in the stands or anything. Like I want to look out for you. Like I think you can do really big things, just not here. And I was like, okay. So I'm in my gap year. It is September now, going into October, and I was just committed to a school for 8 months, and I was no longer committed, and I felt my world literally fell apart. I was like, this is literally everything you've ever worked for. Like committing to college as an athlete is such a huge weight taken off of your shoulders. Like it is like the first time in however long your recruiting process is that you can actually like breathe. And you know, as much as people say like, oh, like you're not playing like to go to college, you're playing to have fun, but at the end of the day, like most girls and most athletes are playing to reach the next level. And as much as you can try to like put it at the back of your mind, it's like, oh, if I play well and like I'm a good teammate, like the offers will come and the college coaches will notice me. Like it's always on the forefront of your mind. It's you're sitting on the bench and you see the people in the stands with the college hats and the jackets and the little notebooks writing things down during the game. You just can't help but wonder, like, what college is that? Who are they watching? It's just it occupies your mind so much, and it's like kind of unhealthy. But it you make it through. But I was kind of in a panic for those months. It was rough. I'm not even gonna lie. I was a horrible teammate during that. I was just every time I would make a mistake or like anything would go wrong, I would, oh, this is why I'm not going to Maine. Oh, this is why the coach didn't want me. This is why like I just thought I was awful, and it like trickled down too. Like, and I look back now and I'm like, wow, like I never want to be a teammate like that ever again. I feel really bad for my team because, oh my gosh, I was just so awful to them, and they were so good to me, like supporting me through it and everything, and I just gave them nothing in return. But one of my coaches last year at this time, his daughter had played at Sacred Heart for 5 years, so he was in pretty close contact with Coach O'Malley throughout all of it. She didn't graduate too long ago, and so he kind of reached out to Coach O'Malley and was like, "Hey, I got this girl. She's kind of getting to the end here. Like it's probably like December, January at this point, and I'm like, time's a ticking. I got like nothing here, and I was very unappealing to college coaches too because they're looking at this is my gap year. Like they're looking at 19U. It is 0506. Like, okay, these two girls had the exact same skill set. Like we want them both to develop a little bit more. This 06 has another year. This 05 doesn't. We don't want the 05. So I was just like very unappealing to coaches. Like, oh, it was not going too well. So my coach reached out to Coach O'Malley and was like, "Hey, I got this girl. This is what happened. Like she's kind of in a pinch right now. Like I'll send you some video." And then Coach O'Malley was like, "We'll have her." And I was like, sick. So I was actually up north when with Novi Varsity Hockey. I was working really closely with them in my gap year with like photography and like doing just a lot of like media stuff for them. And they had this is like so unnecessary, but they had a girl manager, and they didn't want her to be the only girl on the trip. So they're like, "Hey, like you want to come?" And I was like, so I was actually up north with them, like holding up the bus on the phone with Coach O'Malley, and he was like, "Hey, like I want your answer within a week." And I was like, "A week? Oh my gosh!" um, I was like, "That's like not a lot of time at all." And then I had gotten back from the trip on like a Monday, and then the next Tuesday I was driving to practice, and I was thinking, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. Like I didn't need the full week to think anymore. Like I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna get to the rink. I'm gonna tell my coach I'm committing, and I'm gonna call Coach O'Malley and tell him I'm in. And that's literally exactly what I did. I kind of just like not impulsively, but it was just like I just had to do it. I just had to rip the band-aid off because I knew like I don't know, there's something in me telling me like, all right, like this is gonna be it for you. Like you got to do it. So yeah, I did that, committed in January, and then the rest of my months of youth hockey where I was like committed and like that weight again was off my chest. Like it was great. It was so fun. Like still feeling bad for my teammates because of how awful I was, but definitely try to patch things up with them later on in the season and turned everything around. So my
Yeah.
recruiting process looked a lot different than everyone else's. But I think I'm so much stronger because of it, like mentally strong. Like there's not many things now that after going through what I went through, there's not many things that can really shake me anymore. So I guess that's kind of one of the good things that came out of it.
Right. Yeah. It makes you stronger as an individual mentally. And, college is stressful. So, like, not that you want to go through stressful things before you get to college, but it kind of helps once you're there because you've got so much stress. It just it never ends. I mean, as sad as that is to say, then when you get out of college, you've got the stresses of the real world. So, all these experiences that cause you immense stress, as much as they suck, they do make you mentally stronger. But you do have a very interesting story. I don't know if I've ever heard of a coach kind of saying like, yeah, actually, and never mind, we don't think this is the right fit, and kind of booting you out. And I mean, I've interviewed a lot of athletes, different sports, different levels, and that's a very interesting story that it's tough to go through. It's hard enough, like you said, to just regular recruiting. Um, and it's hard enough to just pick your college if you're not an athlete. Like, where do I want to go to school? What do I want to study? But now it's like, okay, where do I want to play? And do they have a major that I'm interested in? And maybe they don't, but I just love the coaches. And now I got to figure out something else because I want to go to this school, but they don't have mechanical engineering. So what am I going to study? I mean, it's just, and you're making this huge life decision as a young kid. I mean, the fact that people commit, like you said, in seventh grade, that's just crazy. I mean, most seventh graders are not worried about college, so like the fact that you're an athlete and that's what you're thinking about, your peers definitely aren't. I mean, they're thinking about what, I don't even remember what I was thinking about in seventh grade, probably something stupid. Like,
Yeah.
you had no care in the world when you're that young. Those are just huge life decisions. And I know nowadays, right, you can hop in the portal if things don't work, but that's more stress that you add later in life. So if you can make the right choice, obviously everybody wants to. Yeah, it's a crazy world, recruiting and making these huge decisions when you're such a young adult. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, definitely a pretty rough time, but yeah, silver lining, you gotta see like the good in it. Everything happens for a reason. So
Right, exactly. So when did the track recruiting enter the picture? Was that after you had already committed to hockey later on?
yeah, I had figured out in when I was still in high school, like my junior senior year, like that some schools you could like play two sports. Like I have some friends at other schools that do two sports, and I was like, okay, like it wasn't like a make or break thing for me with like recruiting for hockey. Like if a school told me you can't run here, then I wasn't gonna not go there because of it if it was like a good fit for me. But my sophomore and junior years of high school, when I was doing track, it was kind of just like for the social aspect, like what a lot of kids do it for, and being like I guess like already like pretty strong and like long legs and everything. I would win a race or two, and so I was like that was cool too. So but then my senior year, towards the end of the season, I really started to fall in love with the like actual running part of it. Crazy, like a track athlete likes running. Wow. I really started to fall in love with like the running and just like getting better and just like the workouts we would do. Like I just want all I wanted to do was run, 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 run. And which sucked because like our season was just about to end. Like this was probably like a couple of weeks before the state meet, and I was like, well, there's nothing for us after that. I mean, my relay had qualified for nationals, but like all three other girls in the relay like had already made plans for like over nationals, like after the school year, like trips and stuff like that. So it was like I knew like this is the end, like this was literally it. And I hated that. I really wanted to keep running and everything, knowing that now like it meant a lot more to me than just like the social aspect and like just being around my friends all the time. Like I enjoyed the grind. Like I embraced the grind and I ended up falling in love with it. So when I committed for hockey, I had asked Coach O'Malley, I was like, hey, like, have you ever had like a dual sport athlete? And he was like, yes, actually. And I was like, you don't say. Um, and there's a girl on our team, Anastasia Sloan. She is a senior right now, and her freshman and sophomore year, she ran track. So I was like, oh my gosh, how perfect is this? So I talked to Coach O'Malley about it. He was like, yeah, like Coach Morrison will have you, like go for it. And so I emailed the head coach and the sprints coach, and I was like, hey, I'm not running right now. Like these are my times from a year ago, like in high school. Like, would I be able to run? And they're like, sure. And I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, that was really cool. Like being able to do like I don't even like think about it because this is all I know is going from hockey to track like the last like 3 years. Um, but now thinking about it, like really taking a step back and like, when everyone's like two D1 sports, I'm like, and I think that I'm like two D1 sports. Like, am I insane? Um, but yeah, no, I'm so incredibly blessed to be able to do both and like both the sports that I love now. Like being able to do both is just it's unreal.
Yeah. Don't have a lot of free time, hey.
Oh no, not at all.
But I mean, it's worth it if you love it, right?
Yeah,
And you've only got this short window of time when you can do it all. I mean, you got to take it all in whenever you have the chance, and it's kind of like if you have the opportunity and you can do it and you don't, you're gonna live with regrets. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like if you knew I could have done both and they would have accepted me and I chose not to, then you'd look back on it and be like, man, I wish I would have. So it's, I mean, it's worth it, especially if you love it and you're passionate about it. It's definitely worth it.
yeah, and it's nice too because like you get so like comfortable around like your teammates and your coaches and like your routine and everything. And now I have 200 brand new teammates, like which is so it's so awesome. And they're like the track team here is so they're so welcoming. It wasn't like oh like who is this girl like what is she doing like no, they're so welcoming. They're so awesome. Like we hang out all the time. We'll get dinner after practice every single day, and it's just having that extra another it's like a whole second family that I have on campus. So I have like my friends and I have like my hockey team that are like my sisters and then I have a whole big family tree at track.
Yeah, that's cool. So how is the transition from Michigan to Connecticut? I mean, it's a decent ways away, right? And a lot of people, you know, that first year, it's kind of you figure out whether you like being away from home or not. And some people love it, and they're like, "Man, I love it. I'm experiencing new things." Other people are like, "After my 4 years of college, I want to move back home, and I never want to leave again." You know?
Yeah. I am an only child, so I've always kind of been very independent. My parents kind of raised me that way. I kind of just did everything on my own because like I didn't have like siblings to do everything with me. So leaving home for me personally wasn't a huge deal. I over the summer I would work at like overnight camps like up north in Michigan, and it was like my favorite time. Like even when I went to the camp before I was working there, like it was the best 2 weeks of the summer, like when I was away from home. So the whole like moving away from home part wasn't too bad. My mom was happy that I ended up in Connecticut and not Maine because that's a whole that's a whole other ball game. Um, but yeah, it's definitely can get challenging sometimes when I see like there's girls on our team that live like 40 minutes, like 2 hours away, and they can just go home on the weekend if they want. And sometimes it gets tough. Like I miss my cats a lot, and I miss sleeping in my bed and just like the familiarity of home is kind of what gets you like what disappears the quickest. But at the same time, like experiencing new things, like thinking to myself, like I'm living in Connecticut right now. Like I'm 20 minutes away from the beach. Like, oh my gosh. And just thinking like looking back at like kids in my high school, like that may never leave home. Like they're gonna go to Michigan, they're gonna go to Michigan State. Like the furthest away they'll ever go from home is like an hour and a half. And just thinking now, like how different my life would be if I had like stayed home and gone to Michigan or Michigan State. Like I couldn't imagine myself any other way, like not being hundreds of miles away from home. And as soon as I knew I wanted to play college hockey, being from Michigan, I knew I accepted it really fast that I was going to have to be shipped off somewhere because there's nothing in Michigan, obviously, and like the closest is Ohio State, and I'm not talented like those girls. So I knew it was going to be either like somewhere in Minnesota, like East Coast, and like there's your two options for girls hockey. But it's definitely been tough at times, especially when things start to go rough. Like I can't just go talk to my dad or like go sit in bed and watch cooking shows with my mom. Um, or like not having like my cats there to like make me happy. Like it definitely gets tough sometimes, but I wouldn't have it any other way if I'm being honest. Plus like the weather's pretty similar. So that wasn't too bad.
Yeah. So you're a cat person.
Yeah, I mean, I love all animals. I used to work at a doggy daycare, and it was like the best job in the whole world. So
How many cats do you have?
I have two. I have one. Her name is Willow. She's about like 2.5 now. My mom got her. Me and my dad were both like going away, and she was like, "Well, I'm gonna be lonely, so I'm gonna get a cat." I was like, "That's unhealthy," but um, and then over the summer, I got a kitten, and his name is Dr. Pepper, and he's like this little tiny black cat, and he's like my best friend in the whole wide world.
Yeah, I love that. My wife, when we started dating, she had cats, and she turned me into a cat person. I love cats now, and I'm a person like say I like cats more than dogs, and most people are the other way around, right? They like dogs more than cats, but I'm like I think you have to have the right cat. Like if you have a very loving, playful cat that wants to come sit on your lap and purr or wants to play around with you, then you love cats. Like I feel like the people that don't love cats, maybe they had a bad experience with
Yeah.
a mean cat for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, if you have a loving cat, there's nothing better.
Yeah, there really isn't. And even like my friends that have come over, they're like, "Oh, like I don't like cats," and then they meet my cat, and they're like, "Okay, like I don't like cats except for him." My
Right.
dad is the same way. Like he was not a cat person, and then now he is like, it's so cute. He's like he'll like get down like on the floor and like lay on the floor, like pet my cats. It's so funny.
Yeah, and it really is amazing when you think about animals. Like they can sense when we're not having a good day. Like your cats can tell, and they'll come up and they'll cuddle with you like you're having a bad day, and that really can have an awesome effect on your mental health.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So first hockey season, under your belt now, great program that you're in. You guys made the tournament this year. You've got an awesome rink. It's only a couple years old. That's awesome to have, right? Like I feel like the atmosphere that you have, I mean that's huge. It really helps when you're playing. If you have a small old rink, it might not get as energetic as when you have like an awesome new facility that you get to train in and you get to play at. And you've got this great kind of up and coming program that's becoming a consistent force in women's college hockey. So how did your first season go?
Well, for me personally, not exactly the way I thought it was gonna go. We have a really, really big roster, so it's kind of like getting in the lineup is very tough. And just some like other issues like here and there, like it was like a very like year. I guess like I think everyone could attest to that on my team, but I think at the end, like pulling all together and winning our conference, that was everything we had ever dreamed of, and I think that it really did make everything all worth it. Everything that we had gone through that year, like all the hardships, like all the ups and downs, like it was just all the downs were just completely forgotten as soon as we hoisted that trophy. It was just like it was unreal. Like, it was such a good feeling to be able to kind of accomplish that, like despite like a lot of odds being stacked against us at times. And like you said, like having the facilities is just like, oh my gosh, it's actually crazy. Like the weight room and just like the shooting room and the rink itself, like you said, like the atmosphere of everything, it does do a lot, because a lot of the teams that we play against in our conference, they still play it like they'll play at like public rinks, and they won't even like have a locker room. It's like having to go there. We're like, okay, like obviously we're not gonna be like, oh, like this sucks. So we're obviously very, very blessed and grateful to have like what we have, but like not all teams can have that. So but you can definitely like tell a difference like when you're playing somewhere big, and especially when we do bring in a decently big crowd. Like it is the coolest thing ever. We have the band there, like like it's crazy. It's there's nothing like it. And having like the facilities too. We also have like the best strength trainer in the country too. Like he is so good at what he does. Like he one of my favorite part of the day is when I get to go hang out with in Rob's room. Like if I had a bad practice and I just need somewhere to just go sit on the floor, I'm gonna go head right to the weight room. I'm gonna go talk to Rob. Like he'll get my head on straight, and I'll just be able to sit there. And he's so great. Like he knows exactly what we need. Like my body had never like I feel so much stronger now. Like he pinpoints exactly what we need to work on. Like he makes sure we're not sore for practice. Like he'll work with what we're doing on ice to like kind of implement that like off ice. Like if we're gonna be skating a lot that day, like okay, we'll have a little bit of a lighter lift. Like I'm gonna get you ready. Like he sets us up so well for nothing but success. And I think a lot of our success is like should be like dedicated to him, because we would not be where we are as a team or me as a person and as an athlete if it wasn't for him. So he is like the best ever.
Is he like specific for the hockey team, or do you still work with him now, even when you're in track?
No, he is for just both the hockey teams. And he also has like his own kind of like business that he runs. That like kids will after school will come work out with him, and he has like just a bunch of athletes and stuff like that, like all across the board. Like sometimes he'll work with like figure skating and stuff like that. So he's a busy man, you gotta say. Don't know how he does it sometimes, but um yeah, so I'm gonna miss him, miss lifting with him when I lift with track now. But even like Wednesdays I have track off, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like come in, like we'll do some mobility with you. We'll see what's up." I'm like he could have just told me like, "All right, you're not here anymore. Like don't bother me." But no, like he still just wants me to be the best athlete that I can possibly be. Like even if it's not for the team that he's working with, and it's just like I think that kind of shows his character and who he is more than anything. It's just like he wants me to come in just so he can like see where I'm at, and just so we can talk about track, and he can make sure my body's staying in one piece and just give me things to do. And he's just don't know where I'd be without him.
Yeah, they do live busy lives, like people that are strength coaches for teams, or like you said, he also has a business outside. It's not a job you can do if you're not a hard worker.
Yeah, he's one of the most dedicated, hardworking people I know. And even like he'll bring his daughters to the rink sometimes. Like he is the best dad. Like, oh my gosh, like, oh, it's so cute the way he is with his girls. Like my team says he's such a girl dad. Like he has three girls and he is such a girl dad. And he's so cute with them. Like, oh my gosh, he's like a role model for all of us. And oh yeah, he's awesome.
That's awesome. That's funny. Um, so taking a look at track, which is the current season that we're in now, are you gonna be sticking with your same events, sprints, 200 and whatnot?
Yeah, yeah. Tomorrow, I'm entered in the 100, the 200, and the 4x4. But we'll see how my body feels about that 4x4 because it's been 2 years since I ran, and this week of practice was rough. So, 100, 200 for sure. I'm gonna be doing tomorrow. Kind of just tomorrow's meet is very like low key and chill, so it's kind of just like a start of the season, like but get all the rust off and everything. So it's kind of a good opportunity because I haven't run since my senior year of high school 2 years ago, and I think like I've gotten so much stronger since then, but I also like haven't been running. So it'll be interesting to see where I stack up, like what type of numbers I'll put up because I have no idea what I'm like capable of anymore. So I'm super excited to get the ball rolling with that though. So
Yeah, good old rust buster meet. And also the weather, right? That plays a huge factor. I feel like there's some people that they do great running in colder weather. I never was one of those people. Like I needed it to be warmer to feel like I could have good time. Some people it didn't seem to matter what the weather was. I mean, they just pump out awesome times like they were superhuman. And it was like, how are you, it's 40 degrees and the wind is blowing and there's sleet coming down. How are you just cranking out PRs right now?
yeah,
But this time of year it's tough depending on where you're at. I mean, if you're somewhere down south, I mean that obviously weather's less of a factor because you've got nice weather all the time. But out east where you're at, up north here in Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, track's a tough sport. Spring sports are really hard when you've got winters and colder springs.
yeah, definitely gonna have to be paying attention to the forecast for our meets. But this tomorrow's gonna be beautiful. Hopefully not too windy. Um, I'd rather have to be a little bit colder than be like super windy. Like I hate the wind. We had a workout yesterday. We were running right into the wind, and it was really bad. But yeah, we get a lot of that from just like being on the East Coast. Like my mom was last week. I was home for a week, and my mom was complaining about the wind, and I was like, "Mom, this is like every single day in Connecticut." So, we're going down to New Jersey tomorrow for our first meet, and I'm incredibly nervous, but I'm really excited. I can't wait to just get it over with. Like I just need to finish the race as soon as I cross the line. Like I'll be happy. But yeah, definitely gonna be ups and downs with the weather, and even like for practice too. Like it's hard to sometimes to like kind of like, oh yeah, like we're gonna go outside or we gonna go inside. Like I don't know, but either way, kind of just got to push through. Like, not really, nothing you can control about it. So you kind of just got to accept it and do your best with it.
Yeah. Wind sucks. I can get on board with that. Like I don't know how people live in like Chicago, windy city, right? Like I just couldn't deal with that all the time.
Yeah, no.
You can't go outside. You're like trying to have a conversation with somebody. What was that? I can't hear you
Yeah,
because the wind is blowing so loud. It's like you're just going for a walk and you can't even talk.
yeah. You think you're having a good hair day? Not anymore.
Yeah, right. So stepping away from sports, we'll touch on kind of a few topics as we wrap up the episode. You already mentioned one of them, photography, something that's kind of like a hobby for you. I saw you have a little page on Instagram where you post some of your stuff. When did you get interested in photography, and like kind of why did you get interested in it?
I think it was my freshman year. My parents just kind of bought like a stock camera from Costco, and I thought it was like really cool. And I was like, oh, like maybe I'll go to the track meets and I'll like take pictures of things and stuff like that. And I kind of started doing that. And then I think it was more like if I like took pictures of people and like I give the pictures to people and they're like, oh, like these are good, like thank you so much, and like seeing people like post them and everything, like make like using like my like talents to make other people like happy and to showcase their skill and their talent and everything. I think that's kind of like what got me really fast was like how cool it was that how like excited like people got like, oh, like you're taking pictures, like sick. So yeah, I kind of was I was using that camera for a while, and then and my major is sports media and communications, and I'm like, okay, like this is what I want to do when I'm older. So I told my mom, I was like, yo, like I kind of need a big girl camera now. Like, I can't be using like the stock camera that every family has and they take to their Disney World trips from Costco. So for Christmas, I got a pretty heavy duty camera, which I'm so grateful for, and like my pictures went to another level when I got it. So being able to have that kind of at my disposal, and then like being in classes that are with my major, like right now I'm in media production, and I'm learning so much, and it's so cool, like just to be able to have like everything at my disposal here at the school, like for exactly what I want to do when I'm older, and being able to work with the men's hockey team and like other sports as well, like basketball, and I'm gonna be shooting like baseball and softball soon. Like having so many opportunities just like right at my doorstep is just it's oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I for fun kind of would take sports pictures when I was in college. I'd go to like local high school events and I'd post them, and but I never had really that fancy of a camera, and it always felt awesome when I like saw somebody change their profile picture to one of my pictures, or they seemed really appreciative, because some kids, like, their parents have an awesome camera, so they're always taking pictures, but you've got other kids that don't have anyone taking pictures for them. So it was always cool, kind of what you're talking about when somebody was really excited. But I took a sports media class as an elective in college, and we got to go out one day and use like the department's fancy cameras and like take pictures of the football team at practice, and it was really fun to use like a high quality camera and take some cool pictures. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's super cool, and like I've like shot some senior pictures and stuff before, so like kind of the whole nine yards. It's definitely like I'm very lucky to be able to be doing all of this kind of like as I'm still young, because I feel like a lot of people they don't start really until they're like older, when they like have the money to get a good camera. They're like, oh, like, this is kind of what I want to do. So being able to kind of like build up my base while I'm still in college, like, and I'm getting an education, like I'm being able to play like college sports, something like that, still building basically the building blocks for my future. Just it's super cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's art, right? And it's cool to do different things with. There's so much you can do with photography, and there's obviously different types. Like taking senior pictures is totally different than taking sports pictures. So it's cool to dabble in those different kinds of art.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So another topic that I've wanted to get more and start talking about more on the podcast is faith, because it's something that's very important to me, and I've had some athletes on more recently that they're very open about talking about their faith. So it's something that I've kind of wanted to start trying to talk about more with people that are open about it. And I was always doing my research, and I was looking at your Instagram, and I saw that you had various things, student ministry stuff that you've done, and just other things. So I thought maybe we could talk about that for a little bit, kind of like how important your faith is to you, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate that. My faith is incredibly important to me. Um, I didn't grow up in I'm Christian right now, but I didn't grow up in like a Christian Catholic like religious household at all. And then in sixth grade, I like my best friends at school, they all went to this like youth group, and I was like youth group, like, and of course me with my raging FOMO, I was like I want to come. So then I went for a couple weeks, and I was like, okay, this is fun. Like I'm making friends and everything, and then um the whole like God thing was kind of starting to click in my head. Like, 'cause I was like, okay, I'm here. I might as well listen to what he has to say. Um, so it kind of like started clicking in my head, and then I went to the ministry summer camp, and that's when it all changed. And like going into seventh grade is when like I was like, okay, like this is legit. Like I feel like it was the first time I'd ever like felt like God like move in my life when I was at that camp, and I felt like his presence. And it was just like from there it was just I was sold. Like I wanted nothing more than to just be with my like I wanted to be at youth group all the time. Like I just wanted to be around the people that like I shared this experience with, and it was just it was the coolest thing ever. And being able to, I think for me personally, finding my faith on my own, um rather than kind of like being raised in that Christian household and like Sunday school, and like we're gonna sing Bible songs when you're 2 years old, like, and having like religion like spoon fed to you. I didn't have that when I was little. So um for a while it was like I felt like I was playing catch up a little bit. Like everyone knew like we'd be listening to a sermon, and it was like, okay, do you guys know this story in the Bible? Like yada yada yada. And then they talk about it. I'm like, I don't know that story in the Bible actually. So kind of like felt like I was playing catch up for a while, and I still kind of feel that way sometimes. I feel like everyone is just so much more knowledgeable than me. But as I see it, like for me personally, like your faith isn't dependent on your knowledge of the Bible, or like how many of the disciples' names do you know? Like how many like of the books of the Bible, how many can you name? Like no, it's about like seeing how God has worked in your life and using those experiences to help other people strengthen their faith. And yeah, I definitely, even through everything that I went through, like especially when I got like through like the main debacle, like being committed and then not committed, and then like all of that, like I was so angry with God. I was like, dude, and it wasn't even like, oh, I'm not going to Maine anymore. Like, what the heck? It was okay. Why was I led to believe that I was going here for 8 months, and then bam, take it away from me? Like I like those 8 months were the best 8 months of my life. Like that was when I was working at the camp up north, and I was like spreading God's word to these little kids too, and being like, okay, like I really feel like God is like calling me to like everything is in place right now. Everything is exactly the way it should be. Like God is like, this is what God is telling me to do. Like I'm spreading the love to all these little kids. Like they're learning from me. Like I'm learning from God. Like this is unreal. Like I feel I'm on top of the world right now. And so then when all of that was kind of taken from me, I was like, so I was fed up. I would never. My faith wavered definitely through that, and like at times still like today, like if things aren't going on, I'm like, okay, dude, like come on, like, I'm trying to trust in the process here. But I look back now, and I like through that process, I'm like, there is no way I would have made it out of that, or that I would have ended up where I've ended up if it wasn't for God. Like that was all God. And I think that like in my opinion is one of the most important parts of your faith is being able to look back on these experiences, on these trials that you went through, and being like, I literally only got through that because of God. And at that point, it just felt like throughout that those times in my life, it felt like I kind of just had nobody. Like nobody knew what I was going through. Like nobody knew what was in my head, because like I mean, like not a lot of people experience what I experienced. So it felt like that, but it felt like at that time, looking back, that God kind of took everyone out of my life, so I had no choice but to turn to him and being like, hey, like I'm here, I'm always here, I know exactly what you're going through, like I literally know everything. um so yeah, but even now it's such a huge part. Like every week Wednesday nights I go to like an athlete Bible study um here, and it's like I would be lost without them. Like the people there, and just like everything is so spot on. Like what we study and what we read through and what we talk about, and just like we switch up groups a lot. Like I'm never with like the same people every single week, and I've learned so much from the people in that study, and the leaders. Like they know exactly what they. I feel like they always know exactly what to say, and just like the relationships that I've made in that, and just like having that really strong support system, and that kind of foundation for my faith, because it's very hard, like especially in college, like being I mean I'm very I got very I was very blessed to be able to come to a faith-based school. Like this is a Catholic school, so I'm very lucky about that, because like there's a lot of things like here and there that are like it's okay, like this is a faith-based school. um so I got kind of lucky with that, where like at the same time, like I look, I'm like, okay, like UMaine was a state school. Like it's the same type of thing as going to like Michigan State or something. And obviously they have their Bible studies, they have their groups and everything. But I think being at a school where like everything is based off of faith did a lot for me. And that was like one of the things I look back on. I was like, ah, got me there. You know what? You want this is where I needed to be. And like God knew that. He knew that I needed a stronger support system than what I was gonna have at Maine. And I like firmly believe that that is one of the reasons why I ended up here instead of there. Um, it's just because like he knew that I wasn't gonna be able to tackle it alone. Like God calls us to be in community, and I'm constantly reminded of that when like everything is going into shambles. And but Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. I can walk 5 minutes down the street, and I am just so like I'm so filled up with just joy and God's love, and just the people around me, just we're just all pouring into each other. And it's my favorite thing in the world, and just being able to have those relationships, and people like checking in on you and sending you like they'll see you things that like remind them of you, or like, oh, like I remember like this is like you asked me to pray for this, like here's something that I found on social media that is exactly about this, like I'm praying for you. And it's just like little things like that that really get you through, because like it's hard a lot of times. It's really hard to kind of balance, like you're balancing school, you're balancing athletics, you're balancing your social life, you're balancing your faith and everything. And sometimes just it all gets too much. So having an outlet to really, for people that really just help you slow down and remember why you're here. Like everything I have is because of God, and there's no reason that I shouldn't be glorifying him in the way that says that to everyone, that I'm here because of God. I am the way I am because of God. Like I am where I'm at in my life. Like I'm playing two Division 1 sports. Like that's God. And like you think about it, it's like we were talking about this the other day in Bible study too. We're like, okay, like how do you is playing a Division 1 sport really glorifying God? Because it's like, okay, like shouldn't I be like, I think our leader was like, yeah, shouldn't I be like a monk or something? Like isn't that supposed to be right? But no, like God gave us these gifts, and using the gifts that God gave us is just a way of glorifying him. And just like it's all worship. Everything is worship. Like the way you interact with people, the things you do, like the sports you play, like everything is just all in the name of the Lord. And once you kind of flip your mindset to know that like that's like what it is, like you're here because of God, you are doing everything in his name, like everything kind of becomes a lot lighter. Like everything is filled with a lot more joy. You get a lot more out of everything than rather than kind of just going through the motions and everything, but just seeing like the small joys in life, and just like little, like I call them God winks. Um, that just like remind that have this just God like just giving you a little tap on the shoulder, like, hey, like I'm still here, like no matter what, like I'm still here. And it's been tough sometimes, like kind of trusting that everything is going to work out in the end, especially like through like hard times, like throughout the season and everything. Um, Especially with me, it's like, okay, I accepted that everything happens for a reason when you directed my path away from Maine and to Sacred Heart. Like, okay, I accept that everything happens for a reason. Then it's like, why? why? Like, okay, I accepted everything. I thought everything was supposed to work out. Like, what's going on? But definitely just having people and just like having people that force you to lean on the Lord is just the most important thing, I think, in college, because like I would be so lost without those people.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of really good points. Like thinking back to it, like I think it's very interesting to hear people's journeys because everybody's got a different journey, right? You're talking about how you didn't grow up in a Christian home, right? You kind of found that later in life. Like me personally, I grew up in a Catholic house, going to church, every single weekend, my whole life, and that's kind of like all I knew. And I think one thing you said that's super important is kind of like your relationship with God. That's a personal thing, and it's different for everybody. It looks different for everybody. There's not one person who's doing it right and the other person's not. Like growing up, I feel like I've always and still today have a very strong relationship with the Lord. But like I've never been one that can just quote scripture. Like some people can just roll it off. They're like, yeah, when I think of Matthew 6:34, and then they just rip it right off. I'm like, I've never been able to do that, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a strong relationship with God. It's I always pray. I go to church. I had a very strong relationship with my priest growing up. I would meet with him when I was in college almost weekly, and we'd have hour-long conversations about different things. And another thing you mentioned was kind of in the tough times, your faith kind of wavered. I think that's also very common, right? Like we're human, and our human mind will doubt, and it'll question. And I think once I went to my priest and I was like, Father, like I had these thoughts like, what if God's not real? Like what if this is all fake? And he was like, Alex, that's totally normal. Like your human mind is going to question that. Like that doesn't mean you don't love God just because you're having this question. Like that's going to happen. But the important thing is that you don't stray away, right? Like you keep you stay strong in the journey. And I'm trying to think of all the things because you brought up so many
A
good
lot.
points.
Yeah, I could have went on and
So
on.
I'm trying to think back to what you said. But yeah, I mean it's all a personal thing. It's very important. I had a similar experience, kind of like you were talking about when the main thing happened. You're like, what's going on here? Like, come on, dude. Like, why are you doing this to me? And as much as I always say, like the same thing you said, like it trusts God's path for you. And in the moment when something bad happens, your human instinct is doubt and disbelief and anger and stress and all this stuff. I was living away from home. I told this story once before, but I'll give the short version. I was living away from home, about 2 hours away, and I wanted to move back because I was living away from my fiance and we were going to be getting married. So I ended up getting a job, moving home. It's like a month before we're going to get married. So I'm like, man, everything is going awesome. Like, this is perfect. Trusting in the plan. 3 weeks later, I got laid off. Everybody in the entire company got laid off. And I'm sitting here, weeks before the wedding thinking, like, why did this happen? Right. Like, I got home, everything looked perfect. I'm about to get married. Now I don't have a job. Well, I mean, truth to be told, I was never happy in that field. I went to school for forestry and I never loved it. But I ended up getting a job at my local high school, the one I graduated from, as a parapro, and I am happier than I ever was. And of course, in that moment, I doubted, and I was like, why did this happen? Like, I know God's got a plan, but I cannot see it right now. And now I see it, right? Like God doesn't want you to be miserable. God doesn't want you to be unhappy in what you're doing. Like, He wants you to feel good. He wants to take your anxieties away, your stresses away. He doesn't want you to go to work hating it every single day. So, I mean, human nature, right? We doubt, we question. And I feel like that's always going to be there. It doesn't matter how devout you are. Like the human side of your brain is always going to poke and poke and poke. And the devil too, right? The devil's everywhere, and
Yeah,
he's very crafty and he's very conniving and he's very snaky, and he knows how to manipulate us, and he knows how to trick us. And I mean, the most important thing is never giving up, right? Like that's what I think. Like we're all sinners. We're all gonna sin. It doesn't make me a better or worse person because I did this sin or that sin and you didn't, or you did those sins. I mean, everybody's got a cross to bear in life. But the most important thing is no matter what you've got going in your life, that you stay firm in your faith, and you lean on God, and He's always there for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like as we mentioned, we talk about this a lot in like our Bible study. It's like I look back and like my faith is only so as strong as it is because of the hardships that I went through. Like my faith isn't strong because like I'm playing a Division One sport or because like I don't know like the it's the bad things that I look back on in life. It's the bad things that made my faith stronger. Like going through hardships and like those trials and everything. Like that's what tightens my relationship with God. Like obviously like, I look at the things that I'm blessed with and I look at the joys in my life and I'm like, okay, yeah, like that's God. But if everything was so joyful, like you wouldn't have to like have that straight through relationship with God because it's just be like, okay, like this is just a guy who just gives me everything and he's great and awesome. Like amen. Like no. Um it's looking back and seeing like, okay, like I made it through. I'm stronger now. Like I leaned on my faith. Like that's like why I'm here. And just seeing like this what we were talking about Bible study 2 days ago and we were just talking about how like sometimes like everything is just so like loud and the world is just moving so fast and we all just need to like slow down like try like and giving up control like just a lot of like uncertainty about the future and just like decisions that have to be made super fast and just like not knowing what to do and also like but at the same time like not having feeling like you have no guidance in that even though like deep down like like your plan is the way it is like your life is laid out like God knows exactly what's going to happen to you next and but still like having like the anxiety of like okay like what do I do like what do I do um and this one girl in our group she said instead of telling God how big your problems are tell your problems how big your God is and I was like well, well give me like 2.5 minutes to process that first and then we can keep going but no it's just like it's little things like that just the right person says the right thing exactly when you need to hear it and then it's like all right like that's like God speaking through her that is like God knew I needed to hear that so he put that on her heart to say that and just thinking about that I'm like it's crazy just knowing that like God knows exactly what I need and he's providing for me even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes even if it feels like everything is going to shambles and I don't know what to do and I'm in a constant state of panic um he's still moving in my life like he's still walking with me like it's crazy to think about too that like even like through everything hard like he's still been there and like we also bring up a lot the beach scene I don't know if you ever heard of it but where it's like there's a painting that they made of it and it's footsteps walking in the sand and but there's only one person but there's two steps of footsteps and one is the person and one is God's and that like even though he might not be able to see him or see him working all the time like he's always there like oh it's just like it gives me like shivers like thinking about it but yeah no my faith is just like it's so important to me because I even look back at like the most important relationships I have in my life are faith based. Like the people that I met at those youth groups, the people that I've met at like the camps that I go to and everything. Like those are the people that are reaching out to me and asking how I'm doing and that I still like want to see like over the summer. Like these are the people that I know have my back because like the relationships that are built on faith are like the relationships that thrive. So like I like that's what I look forward to like going back over the summer and like seeing like my friends and like oh like what's up like how are you and I like yeah I just I could talk about this for hours if you can't tell.
Yeah, that is an awesome thing that you mentioned that your friend at Bible study said right about how big your problems are, but God is bigger. I mean, it's like kind of the devil is always going to be there. Like he's not going to go away, but God's always going to win. Like the devil is never going to win. He's going to push everyone's buttons. He's going to try to draw you astray, but God will always win. God's like the superhero in the movie, right? The superhero's not going to lose. He's always there. He's always going to save the day if you call him. If you call him, right? Like you got to call him. You got to want him. You got to want God in your life because he's always there waiting. He wants to help you. There's so many people. It's like, man, if you just like turned to God, like you'd be amazed. And I feel like a lot of people see that. They're like, wow, like I can't believe I went my entire life, without God in my life.
Yeah.
Is you just gotta make that little effort, right? And like all it has to start with is like just pray, just talk to God. Like you don't have to start your life in faith by going to some big convention or like everyone starts in different ways. So like, and if you talk to God, he's gonna respond to you. He's
Mhm.
gonna guide you. I can't imagine. I don't know where I'd be like if I didn't have God. Right? You know what I mean? Like he's always there. You can always lean on him. There's no friend on earth that you can say that about. Like you can have the best friend in the world, and you know what I mean? Like they've got their own life. They got God. He's always there. He's always there. You can lean on him whenever you need. And one other thing before we wrap up that I want to touch on that you said is the whole like playing the sport. It also I feel like it gives you this platform that
Mhm.
you can spread the word. You see it a lot now with professional athletes, NFL players. Like yeah, I'm not a football player. Like I am a child of God, and I am using football as my vessel to spread the word. Like I am a football player second, and I think that's like a huge thing people talk about. Kind of what you said. Like, are you glorifying God with your sport? It's like you are, and He also gave you this sport as a way to help spread His message.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just knowing like keeping your identity in God rather than like earthly things. Like my identity is not a hockey player. It is not a track runner. It is not a student. It is not a daughter. It is not a friend. It's like a child of God first. And then all those things are because I'm a child of God. So I think and also just that like stands out too. And just knowing that like everyone is a child of God. I think that you can always kind of tell um the people that have God, like they seem to be like those are the people that are like there for you. Like those the people that recognize that everyone is fearfully and wonderfully made are the people that you always want to be around the most. And I think that kind of just speaks volumes, like to like non-believers too. Like you like if you are you're a non-believer, you think about the most joyful people in your life, the people that you want around. Like I'll put money on it that it's the people that are close with God.
Yeah, no, very good point. And I think this was a perfect topic to kind of end the episode on. So I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, sharing your journey, and then sharing your faith. And yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is awesome.
Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.